Seeing none, that went smooth. Today we were fortunate enough, last year we had some difficulties getting scheduling to get the Highway Patrol over to present, but we have Colonel Herman Jones presenting for the Highway Patrol today. Welcome to the committee.
Well, good morning. Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity to come and present. And good morning to all the other committee members and senators and others in the audience here. I have a presentation here, if I can see if I can get this. There we go. Okay. With the Highway Patrol here, obviously, this is I want to say that because of last year, we weren't able to make the presentation, so it's kind of a little bit of a carryover from a couple of years or so. But pretty much our mission still remains the same in that, I think, oh, there we go. I think I have it on. Okay. I'll just use a pointer, if you will. Okay, so in this right here, obviously the Kansas Highway Patrol was established in 1937, and this year we're celebrating our 85th anniversary of existence for the state of Kansas, and our mission remains the same, pretty much for the fact. These are our statements of what we try to do, and integrated into our mission is we're just trying to improve the quality of life for our citizens here, and through our dedicated service. And I say service in that because it becomes a part of our motto. In our next mission statement there, basically all persons with courtesy and respect is what we're trying to do. So courtesy becomes the second word there. And then we're committed to providing protection for all citizens of this state, whether they're citizens or traversing through. So our motto really is service, courtesy, and protection. That's how we go with that. Next slide. In that right there, we're trying to provide the efficiencies of what we're trying to do with the of being across the state, by being as professional as we can, by having individuals to provide those things of our motto of service, courtesy, and protection. Thank you, ma'am. And for that, then, trying to avail ourselves throughout the state. Now, we don't have troopers in every county, but we have troopers that are responsible for certain counties that can respond in a reasonable amount of time of what we try to do with this right here. So. Okay, we'll just stay right there. And what we have is the statistics. Go back. Yeah, there you go. The statistics of what we have right here. Obviously, we don't have statistics from last year, but these are the years. Until we compile those, we'll have that. But this is give an example of what we've done on an annual basis there for at least for 2020. We show that of our forces out there, we've taken illegal weapons off of individuals, not just weapons for anyone, but these are felons with weapons in their possession there. We understand the fentanyl, which is the illegal drug that has been very deadly, not only in just the state of Kansas, but across the United States there. There's 41 pounds of fentanyl that we've taken. When we talk about felony arrest, these are individuals that have either had a felony record or created a crime that was a felonious act. And these are the individuals that we're taking off the highways. And then obviously dealing with traffic there, dealing with over 1,200 individuals that were under the influence of alcohol. Speed is a contributing factor for death and injury on our highways there. That becomes kind of our meat and potatoes. What we're trying to do is trying to take and protect our citizens by the way of our enforcement with speed violations there. And all of that is to trying to reduce the crashes that incur of fatalities and crashes, injuries right there. So with that then, of our personnel, As of present, right now, we have 465 uniformed officers across the state. I will say that we're working towards trying to improve on that. However, those are the challenges that we have, not only for our agency, but also for law enforcement, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on or so, but you can see how the trend has. Now, I will say that in 2015, you saw that we were at dire straits of what we consider ourselves to be of a personnel level there. But it was the improvement and the assistance from the legislature that was able to implement a career progression plan and also boost up the salaries for individuals to make it more attractive for individuals to come to the Highway Patrol. And you can see the next year, there was an increase and there was a progression with that. However, over the year of the last couple of years, we've seen a decrease in individuals that are interested in law enforcement, and even for individuals that are leaving law enforcement simply because, well, I shouldn't say simply, but there are a lot of factors to come in. But when you talk about the tenor of what we've seen across the United States of individuals in law enforcement, and also the dangers of what individuals are not willing to sacrifice for that occupation there. So we've seen that. A decrease in that. Okay, next slide. And how we go about that is we're trying to recruit and bring individuals into the agency. And so we've had to modify many of the things that we've done in our strategies of how we attract individuals to the Highway Patrol. So not only are working just in the state of Kansas, but also going outside the borders of Kansas, because we understand and realize that there are some qualified people beyond Kansas that would like to come and live in our great state. So from that, then we've put some efforts into our colleges and other career activities in other states, but we really do concentrate on our own homegrown right here in Kansas. Social media has been a big impact of how we connect with individuals. All the assortment of social media, so we're impacting or trying to reach for individuals or so. But what you see here is Lieutenant Corey Beard is our dedicated recruiter, but we also have adjunct recruiters across the state as well. And for that, then, from the western part of the state to the eastern part of the state, we've got individuals that are dedicated, at least on a part-time basis, of where we can reach out to individuals that are interested in patrol. And also being active in our community is what we have. The more we can be socially involved and being involved in our communities, people will see that, we can make the connection. That's what we're trying to do as far as where we go. Next slide, please. Here is a state map of how it's laid out for our troop headquarters, going from Kansas City in A, and then B is right here in Topeka, C is in Salina, D is in Hayes, E is in Garden City, F is in Wichita, and H is in Chanute. Now, some of those, as we will go through here, this is the field operations, meaning those that you will see on the highways in the cars or so, but we also have specialties of individuals that are specialized in certain operations or so. Next slide, please. And Troop I is also headquarters here in Topeka, but these are the individuals that are specifically trained for our motor carrier inspections and also for our critical highway reconstruction or accident reconstruction teams there. So as we understand, the large semis have a lot of regulations, whether it be state and federal. So these are individuals that go through intensive training to at least make the inspections and make sure that they're operating within the boundaries of those regulations or so. And as well, we have sadly, we have tragedy on our highways, which means that the average trooper will investigate crashes, but when it comes to a little more in-depth reconstruction of crashes, such as our motor carrier inspections, motor carrier, not just them, but other significance. I point to December the 15th. We had everybody here experienced the winds and the rain and the snow and everything else right there. We had some crashes that developed with that. And from that then, to determine just cause of what happened in that, we would have our reconstructionists that would respond to those certain situations, and certain situations such as other agencies that we request that special need. And then coupled with this is at the ports of our entries to the state. When our motor carriers come in, we have inspections there, such as Belleville, down at Liberal, Olathe, those places like that, Wabunsee. These are the stationary ports where individuals are inspected to make sure they're within the regulations of our motor carrier. On to the next one, please. Troop J is our training facility in Salina, Kansas, and some of us have a special in their heart for it, because that's where I was trained as a trooper, and many others are trained right there. But it's not just for the Kansas Highway Patrol. We have many other activities and state agencies that use that facility out there. But primarily, this is our training facility, what we use for those that are new coming in, and also for our in-service. As I speak today, our in-service has started for our troopers, and that will take several months before we get everyone through our training program for that. Concurrent to that, we have a training class going on, along with other trainings that are conducted back there. Next slide, please. Some of that would be example of our BAU, breath alcohol unit. These are the individuals that are also stationed at our training academy that will train not only our officers, but officers across the state about specific skill sets to detect individuals that are under the influence and of drugs and or alcohol. So from that, then we have a program where it's DRE, drug recognition experts, where these individuals go through intensive training to recognize individuals not of just alcohol, because we understand individuals are under the influence anymore, and it takes a lot of training to detect that. I would equate that many a times that these individuals are similar to some training that nurses will go through for medical preparedness for dealing with individuals under the influence. So, next slide, please. Troop K, right here. Many of us, when we came into the building, you probably saw a representative from Troop K. It's Capitol Police. These are individuals that are responsible, have state authority as law enforcement officers, but they also, their specific goal is to manage the Capitol area and the complex and the individuals that come in and out of these buildings, not just the Capitol, but state buildings here and across the area here. We do have some buildings out away from the complex that we still have officers involved with that as well. Next, please. And of course, right here in the Capitol is Troop L. This is our dignitary security. These are the individuals that oversee the protection of our governor and or dignitaries that may be in our state or may be coming in, such as if an ambassador comes in and has some business here and requests some certain security or so, we would have individuals assigned with that. We could have individuals in uniform, but generally these are the individuals, as I would say, our secret service of the Highway Patrol. These are individuals that are in plain clothes, but highly trained and educated on dignitary type of protections for individuals in our state. Next slide, please. Obviously, all of this cannot go without communication. And in Salina, we have our Troop M, which is our primary function of our dispatch center. Our dispatcher is centrally located there, but it also dispatches across the state. So we basically have 3 different regions from the east, central, and the west, and individuals there are specifically trained to deal with situations within Wichita, Hutchinson, and whatever else, or Kansas City. From that then, we also have a unit that also does the training and audits of our communications statewide. So it's not just the Highway Patrol that we oversee, but we also oversee the operations, proper operations of communications across the state. So when you talk about 911 centers, they have certain regulations there. We make sure that they are within confines of those regulations. We have that. And we do some training for those dispatchers that are coming from the outside if needed. Going to our next slide is Troop T is also stationed, or at least our headquarters is right here in Topeka. This is our fleet of aircraft, as we've had some conversations about that. But basically, we have one helicopter and, we have fixed wings and a rotary. Our only rotary is here in Topeka. However, we have aircraft here in Topeka, Wichita, and Hayes. One of the items that we're working for, obviously, is that with this type of operation, we are the only law enforcement air unit in the state. Other states will have supplemental type of aircraft support. Let's take for Missouri. Missouri has Kansas City Police Department that has aircraft. The Highway Patrol has aircraft, and St. Louis has aircraft. And I'm not sure Springfield does, but of that state, they've got 3 different organizations there that have aircraft. Where in Kansas, we support all law enforcement and others for that. So it's not just for criminal. For example, when we had the wildfires out in western Kansas, our aircraft took and went up. I believe even Senator Roberts, not Roberts, but Moran was here, and he went up and had a visual, so he knew what to do. So when he went back to D.C. to support Kansas in that phase, but part of that was being able to get a visual from the air that made it a little bit easier to make that impact or so. Next slide, please. Here's an example of what our aircraft does in support of our local law enforcement. In this scene right here, it is our aircraft was on a night patrol in the Kansas City area, supplementing the law enforcement up there, not just Kansas City, Kansas, but all law enforcement. It just so happened a call came that this was an aggravated assault with an individual that had used a firearm and was on the run. There were no ground units close by, but the officers up in the aircraft were able to respond within moments, within minutes actually. And what you see here is a picture of a house where this individual was hiding on the outside, the backside of the house. I don't have the video, the volume of this, but what the pilot is directing the police officer to where this individual is, that they were able to safely be able to locate and put an officer there to take and apprehend this individual. So this was just one example of our fine aircraft and the need that we have for law enforcement. Otherwise, this individual is probably still on the loose, or who knows how long it would take before this individual could be captured and apprehended. And again, with our aircraft, this individual was able to be apprehended within moments of that event happening or so. Next slide. Troop N. Troop N is also special officers that are involved in our task force with our partners on the federal side, but also they have special tasks that deal with not just the road duties, but also those that involve either criminal element, drugs, violence, domestic terrorism, and international terrorism as well. This here is illustrating of some of our individuals that were involved in task force that, if you recall, this was individual that had plotted to do a lot of severe damage to Wichita's airport. Of course, that was negated by our investigation, our folks that were involved in the joint terrorism task force that's stationed in Wichita. So we also have individuals that are involved in our DEA task force. Our officers have been very significant in that we have been recognized nationally for our efforts and our enforcement on drugs and apprehending and the deterring of the drugs that are coming in here. We know that's a tough job. We realize and understand there are many others out there, and that's why we stay dedicated to that and have a very good relationship with our federal partners right there. And then our domestic highway enforcement team. These are the individuals that are out there that will be involved in not only just, but basically, let's look at more in depth of the criminal element that's traveling in and out of our highways. If you have a small community, individuals come in, need some extra enforcement or just some assistance for local law enforcement, then this is where we come in, and our officers will assist local law enforcement in deterring the criminal element that's in the areas or so. Next slide, please. Sorry about that. And this is Troop S. This is our special response team. Obviously, these are the situations where we've been called upon for individuals to come in and we've seen where individuals have been barricaded because of whether it be mental issues or felonious activities, and they hole up in a house, and the local agencies do not have those resources. We're called upon to assist them many times to assist with the apprehension of that individual, or at least mitigate the situation or so. As well, we assist other law enforcement teams of serving warrants on high-risk individuals and what have you on that. We have seen an increase of hazardous, I would say, for simple terms, explosives. Individuals will either make them or find them in their homes. Say, for example, grandpa was in the war, brought an ordnance home as a souvenir. The parents or the children are cleaning out the home and find this and don't know what to do. They pick it up, call law enforcement. Local law enforcement has a resource. They call the Highway Patrol. Our team goes in and we dispel of the ordinance that's there. Sometimes it can be volatile. So there's a lot of kit care that goes with that and how they dispose of those situations. So we just don't do that. So with that, there's a lot of training that goes along with those individuals. We also have our police service unit, which is our dog, K9. Our K9s are multi-use to the point where they are either for explosives or for drugs or for tracking. And they are there for the protection of the officers, but our dogs primarily are trained to, when they locate the drugs or whatever the item it is or so, is to locate, alert on that, and not to be as aggressive until the individual would try to basically return some type of aggression towards them, but pretty much they're there to alert and assist the officers there. And next slide. And this is just an example of what our officers, what they look like when they go to mitigate a situation with explosives and take that away. But they have special training. It'll take months and months to get to a point where they're actually in a uniform or a suit like that to work with an assortment of explosives that are out there. And next slide, which shows but the use of our K9. There are many times that we would actually use the K9 to go in certain locations, secluded areas where it probably would not be as prudent to have an officer go in, but we send the dog in to make the alert, and then we can go from that. So those are just the variety of what our agency is. And before we go to the next slide, I'll just talk about some of what we're trying to do of trying to bring individuals into our agency. Right now, we have an agency of about 471 sworn. And we understand and realize that we have a challenge to bring individuals in. Obviously, we appreciate what the governor has proposed for the budget for enhancing that. That's one of those items there. But there are many other things that we can do to try and enhance and bring individuals in there. So I talked about some of the things that we have done to change that way of how we can bring individuals into our agency. One is we've changed our recruiting standard. And that we're trying to be as proactive out into the state and other areas as much as possible. But to know that we are dealing with other agencies, we're challenged with attracting other agencies, attracting that. We're doing some other things right there. So we've changed where we've actually modified and tried to streamline our application process. In years past, it took months for an individual to go through. Well, we would lose individuals that would go to other agencies that had a shorter time. we've reduced that timeline. We streamlined that, and we're doing more of working with individuals that we changed our testing. We've made, not necessarily made it simplified, but we've also changed the standards to the point where we're now looking at individuals of their motivation and the cognitive side of that right there. And what we have found is by changing that, we've also expanded on our diversity of applications now. So now we have more individuals that look and that are a wider variety of individuals that are coming, not just age, but gender and also backgrounds, ethnicities. So we've changed now where we're going for, instead of one academy, where this year we started with 3 academies, 2 full-time and 1 was the certified officers. Certified officers here in Kansas that have at least 3 years on will come in, and we've shortened our academy because these are trained officers. There are some things that we won't, we're not necessary. It's not necessary to go over and rehash some things that they already know, but we teach them the certain ways of the highway patrol, the driving and the rest and other things such as that right there. So we've put that out there. We've attracted some individuals there, and we'll see how it goes. Other states have done that. This is the first time that I know that we have done that for this, so we're trying something differently and see where we go. In conjunction with that, we'll still have 2 other full-time classes that will be going throughout the year. And last of that right there, we have, again, used the media, social media as a tool for reaching out for individuals. And beforehand, it was we'd expect individuals to come to us and that was it. Now we stay connected with individuals. There's a lot of more communication, connectivity with individuals of what we try to do with that. So that's what we have of getting individuals. And over the year that we've been involved, and we didn't talk about it last year, we talked about some of those advancements and some of the improvements, enhancements of what we've done right here. Understanding that we need to not only bring good people, we ought to educate and train good people and keep them and make work it so it's even better. So from that, then we brought in an expert from that has a program. It's the West Point Leadership Training, and I've put this in to the point where all of our supervisors are now trained similar to West Point cadets. It's a leadership class that goes for 3 weeks where it's intensive training. And I say 3 weeks, but it's more than that. It's day and night. These individuals are training with this, and it goes on, and then they're put to task to practice what they have learned when they go to the field. So this has been very eye-opening for so many individuals, but it also looks at an individual themselves, but also as a whole for the whole agency. Over the last year or so, we have been accredited. We've been accredited through our field operations. Here recently, we were accredited through our communications, so our dispatch is now accredited, and our training academy. There are only so many state agencies that have what they call a triarch. Well, you have 3 segments of your agency that are accredited. And where our accreditation comes from, the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, which many states, many agencies across have gone to some type of accreditation, and this has been in existence for some time now. And I'm proud to say that we are a triarch of that right there. And I'll get through this. We've worked through a career progression plan for our motor carrier inspections, our motor inspection. We have one for our uniform of law for troopers, but we didn't have one for motor carriers. Gave them some avenues of progressing up and advancement with that. We talked about our recruitment program and enhancements we have right there. Equipment always becomes one of those items there. We've increased, there was a need to improve on our MBUs. Understand that those that are working in the field operate out of their car. They have a computer they operate off of. That took a little more robust applications, so we increased on the MBUs for all the officers, and actually through the whole agency. As we recall, with COVID, we went remote. And for that, we had to do some things much differently from individuals that weren't sitting at table, they were working at home. So now we made it to the point where instead of having desktops, they now have laptops and other things that they can scoop, pick up, and go if we have to, if we ever had to go remote. Gosh, hope not. But if we did, we still can carry on the functions of the Highway Patrol in a remote fashion there. From that as well, we talk about dispatch. Dispatch is all considered just like we have in a room such as this. If we have COVID that would hit, we'd have to separate. We're not able to do that as well because everything's set, established there. We were to mitigate that to a certain point where we upgraded the computers where individuals can now remotely dispatch from certain areas if they need to. One of the other advancements that we're looking at, we're actually in the process of, we're enhancing of our RMS system and our CAD system. It's called Smart Cop. And from that, then, we're able to distract more information from officers' contacts with individuals, car stops, crashes, arrests, those type of things. But also, it's pretty much you enter the information, it goes from the, you connect with our computer-aided dispatching, our records management system, and so many other things right there. It's quite the task, but it will make this agency and others much better by the information that we're able to retrieve and put into our system right here. Obviously, technology's there. In-car cameras, we've enhanced our in-car camera systems to the point where they're now digital and how we can bring enhanced information right there. Eventually, we'd like to go to a point where we have body cameras on our, instead of just in our cars. That's an arduous task simply because we're statewide and just trying to upload and do those type of things, but we're working towards. We understand it can't happen, but we're working towards that. I talked about our core values. It talks about service, courtesy, protection of individuals that drive up and down the highways. Obviously, we want to safeguard that. During the COVID, we saw an increase of about 63% with speeds went up. And when I say went up, we're talking about 100 plus miles an hour. So we had to do something about that. And part of that then, we instituted a program for a crash reduction vehicle enforcement. So these are special vehicles there. You may have seen them there. They're a little more sportier car, a little bit faster than our typical vehicle right there. So, but we also, by having these individuals have been able to make greater enforcement of those individuals that are violating the speeds of 100 plus miles an hour. It's not just our state. There are other states that have experienced the same thing, and they've looked at our program as well and maybe want to emulate what we're doing here. Equipment, radars, the weapons that we have, so on and so on. These are the types of things that we've done. We're enhancing our website, how we can better communicate to individuals that are out. And for all the things out there, we talked about just staff enhancement. So that's where, even from our legal standpoint, of trying to enhance our legal staff. Again, this is our 85th anniversary, and we'll be celebrating that, and we'll have certain events right there, but also putting together a yearbook that comes with those. So those are some of the things that we have done over the year, and there's plenty more that we want to do, but I realize that I've probably run a lot of time with that, so I want to stand for any questions if you might have some. So.
I have one off the bat, 41 pounds of fentanyl. That seemed like quite a bit of an increase.
And that was, these are 2020 stats. And we show 21, we probably have as much, if not more. And I couldn't quote that because I don't have those stats in front of me right there, but we have seen an increase, but a lot of that has been our enforcement as well, what we're seeing.
Excellent. Committee questions. Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here today. So if you're looking at crime statistics across the state, and I'm thinking I-70, it used to be marijuana, then it was human trafficking. What is it now? Has anything changed?
You know, drugs are drugs, and marijuana is still there. One of the items that we see is there are individuals that will travel through our state, go into other states for the purchase of marijuana or so. But right here in our own state, we see that. And then it's just the drugs that we see. Meth it can be produced at a cheap cost, and just about anyone could probably formulate that drug. So we've seen that, the fentanyl that we've seen of individuals there. So we've seen a variety of drugs that come in, and some kind of come and go. For a while there, a few years ago, heroin had come back and came back in, but we have seen a constant growth of the meth and the marijuana and fentanyl. Yes.
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colonel Jones, can you give us some historical context on the pay plan? It's my understanding that, and I'll get the years all wrong, but roughly 2017, the rank and pay plan went into effect. But then there were across-the-board raises that occurred in subsequent years that the Kansas Highway Patrol was left out of. So that plan did not continue to keep pace. And then now we're where we're at, and perhaps it makes sense to bring that back up. But if you could give us kind of that timeline to help everyone understand what sort of happened there. We had a solution. We create a new problem. Now we're trying to solve that again.
Sure, and I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so I believe the year 2015 or so, it was recognized that we were not getting the applicants in, and we needed to have something there, not only for those to attract, but also to retain individuals in the agency. And for that, then, it was a progression plan of having a pay established for the Highway Patrol or law enforcement, if you will. I think the KBI was involved in that, but later on. But the Highway Patrol had a pay plan that would progress along the way and also try to minimize any type of compression. Because there were times where you'd have an officer that maybe has been on the patrol for 20 years that was making more than a supervisor. So with the pay plan, it was able to give increments of increases as we went along. And that was established, I believe, in 2016, when it actually went into effect by the legislature. So, so from that, then, the salaries were set, and it moves along. What we saw, though, was if you will, just think of it, a vacuum. Here's the pay plan, and as the rest of things were going on, increases going, it was locked in, but it didn't see the increases that were moving on. So when an increase would come, it would be an increase here. But rest of the pay plan continued on. And so what we've had is basically the salary stayed the same, locked in a vacuum, but didn't increase. In comparison to that, what you would see in other law enforcement agencies that would have a pay plan or so, as others would get increased, that pay plan would get the same increase as well and move along. Whereas the pay plan, the CPP at that particular time froze and didn't see those increases from my understanding. That started before me, but that's where we are and trying to work through that. I think that's where the governor has made that at least a request to boost that or so, and we've talked about these types of things right here. So I hope that answers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that answer. That's helpful to get some of that historical context, especially when we go through this budgeting process. There have been some public complaints of morale in the agency. Can you address and maybe give your characterization of where morale is at this point in time in the agency?
And sometimes my tentacles out there don't always reach those individuals, or maybe they don't tell them to me, maybe tell someone else and I reach out or so. I think a lot of it, what I see is, again, becomes the tenor of what we see in the nation. Individuals will tie in their morale to pay. And there's more to this agency than just that right there. But other individuals may see what's going on where has been, not necessarily here in Kansas, no, but in other places, we're defunding police. The lawsuits, where individuals feel that they've done their acts and they're going to be judged by that. Where it happened here in Kansas is not. Officers see that and says, why do I want to put myself in a situation where I'm going to be judged for my actions of what I thought I was doing right? So some feel that, quite frankly, they don't feel like it's worth it to continue their career. For what I talk to individuals, I'm trying to be as optimistic with individuals as possible, and I go back to our core values of what we're trying to do. Why are you here? We're here to save lives. Individuals have a value, not to the Highway Patrol, but the state of Kansas citizens here. And a lot of times, many a times, that morale is within. I've known many people that are upbeat about what they do and how they go about their business there. And there are some that are naysayers. And I try to refocus why they're in this. But some look at it as pay, and then the others will look at it as the tenor of law enforcement and where it is today.
Thank you, Colonel Jones. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. You made a comment early on, I didn't catch it, about you don't have troopers in every county. That means, did you mean that they don't live in every county, or?
No, we don't have a trooper in every county. Ideally, that would be great to be able to do that. We don't have that. So when we look at Western Kansas, sparse population there, there may be a county that has 2,000 people. They may not have a state or federal highway that runs into that. So we try to place our individuals in the advantageous locations where we can be the best, get the best money for our individuals right there. So the individual may live in a county adjacent to it and respond to those things and patrol in those areas as well. Obviously, we need more people to be able to do something such as that. Obviously, in the large populated areas, we need bodies as well. So we have to work through and do the administration of where we place our bodies and individuals and personnel and those type of things right there. It would be great in an ideal world to have a trooper in every county. Ever since I've been with the Highway Patrol, that has not been the case.
Okay, I just wanted to know I heard that right. Okay. One follow-up. With the shortage of drivers, semi-truck drivers, are you seeing any trends right now with the supply chain, like as far as violations, too many hours, not licensed properly? Are you seeing anything along those lines right now?
I can't sit here and tell you specifically to those points right there, but we've seen those individuals that are driving are still trying to stay within those confines of the regulations right there. That's why we have our folks in Troop I that are out there to oversee that. But as I say that and I travel, just like motoring public and cars, I see speed go up. So it's imperative that we enhance that, because not every driver, please don't take me wrong, there are great, safe drivers out there that follow the rules. There's a few that we have right there. I don't believe that, I can't answer that, and I'm not going to answer that right now without having those statistics in front of me there. But what I see is we still have our folks investigating or inspecting those situations that have been in the past as well as where we are today.
It just seems like there's a lot of opportunity to get licensed, and I'm just curious if there are any trends, you know.
For that, I would say that our folks that are dedicated to that right there, if there is a violation or so, they're going to enforce those type of things right there. And I could say from our side, we're enforcing what the statutes are.
Senator Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Colonel, for being here. Always appreciate it. I gotta commend you on, you know, a couple years ago, we talked about diversity in the force, and the efforts, it sounds like, are paying off in terms of encouraging more and more applicants from different backgrounds, like you said. So I gotta commend you on that. And I've got to commend the force and the members. The whole committee understands the difficulty the highway patrol officers have working as often lone enforcement officers out in the rural areas, especially, or and it's nighttime, daytime. it's a very difficult job, and we all appreciate that. With that, I want to encourage you with medical marijuana as a potential option coming along. We don't know if it's going to pass this year or not, but obviously around the states. So I encourage you and your troopers to come up with strategies that will accommodate the legal usage of it in the state. I'm also going to encourage you to continue to look at different aspects of capital security. Learn from other states that I feel like with domestic terrorism, we probably will potentially see something here, and we need to be prepared. We emphasize that at the Joint Security meeting as well during the summertime, so just to reemphasize that message to you. And then I'll always emphasize training of de-escalation so that we don't see situations out on the highway turn unnecessarily violent. So I know you guys train in that, but I'm just going to emphasize that I hope that you continue to focus on de-escalation of situations and training to do that with all nonviolent situations and de-escalation techniques put in place before we actually have to go and take someone's life if in the unfortunate circumstances where that's necessary. So that's my main points.
If I will, and to your points there, yes, we do have individuals, you're right, they're working longer hours simply because of the lack of personnel to cover, to go 2 counties away. Now they go home for the day, and then they're getting another call to go out right there. So we're very cognizant of the fatigue factor that goes along with that. To the marijuana, yes, we've looked at those strategies and understand that we need to make some modifications because we're going to follow the law, whatever it is. And if that changes, we make our changes and we make those adjustments to what we have right there. And to the point of de-escalation, it just so happens that we're involved in a training, the grant that was given to Fort Hays State on de-escalation training. So our people will be involved with that, our agency, to take it even further right there. So I appreciate your observations on that. Thank you.
Committee, we have time for one more final question. See none?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hawk, I didn't see the hand go up on the screen.
I can't figure out how to put my hand up. If I might, I have a quick question on the ports.
Absolutely.
Colonel Jones, you mentioned the ports at Wabaunsee and several others around the state. I know that one on I-70. Is that manned by the Highway Patrol or is that KDOT? And sometimes it doesn't look like they're open. What are their hours? And who's required to stop there and what exactly do they do in terms of checking logs and weights, et cetera, sort of following up on Senator Clues's question?
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yes, the individuals that are at the ports are employees of the Kansas Highway Patrol. That's a part of the Troop I that I talked about, motor carriers inspectors. Some motor carrier inspectors are mobile, and then we have the ports, such as that. So if you go by Wabaunsee and it's closed, many a times it's because we don't have the personnel. And there are many occasions throughout the state where we don't have the personnel to do it. Again, go back to what we try to do with that is try to enhance their pay plan so that we can attract individuals and keep individuals to come in that. So we're working for that right there. But until we can get individuals that are actually stationed for those ports, if we don't have enough people, then it's kind of hard to do that. But when we do have individuals that are there, their responsibilities are to check the regulations of the motor carriers that are traversing up and down the highway. Now, understand that not everyone that is a motor carrier has to stop at that particular point simply because they have safety measures in their truck or they have met certain qualifications that allows them to move on down the highway. Let's take Wabaunsee, for example. Just before you get to Wabaunsee, you'll see there's a reader similar to what we have on Turnpike. And the reader makes it will read that truck, that operator's vehicle to make sure that they have all the qualifications that are set by the standards of the federal regulations there. If that vehicle is not registered that way, or there's a defect somewhere along the line in the computer system or their files, truck is then given an indication in the truck to pull into the port. And when that person pulls in there, they're going to be weighed for their cargo, as well as that individual is going to have an inspection of their paperwork, or their logbook, are they up to date on all their regulations or so. So that's what they're going to do with all those situations there. And occasionally, it's not that the individuals allow every vehicle to go by. Every once in a while, they'll do spot checks. They'll just bring a truck in, and even though they may have an indication everything's right, but they want to spot check and make sure everything is correct and up to date with that. So individuals come in. So whether it's Belleville, excuse me, out in Canorado, Liberal, Olathe, those are areas that we have right there. And that's what they do. I hope that answers the question.
That's great. Thank you, Colonel Jones. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Colonel, for being here. It's a great presentation. As always, you can feel free to follow up with their liaison. I don't know who that is this year yet, but I'm sure the Colonel will be getting that information to our committee. With that, committee, we plan on working Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays this week and next. Keep your eye on the calendars. We are adjourned.